Yeah, during the break, I actually noticed we forgot to do one more thing. We forgot to use this bit, well, what's going to be a bitmap, and kind of see how here we've got these like it's a very hard edge. I'm going to use this to kind of bring some of those cracks into the rest. This is really annoying me. I'm gonna switch this out. We're going to turn this into an emissive now, which is how it's going to be in the end. This is going to be easier to see. So let's deal with this before we turn these into bitmaps. I want to overlay it on here because I'm going to use it for my color, but I don't want to do it all over. And I want it to have a bit of movement to it, although I'm not actually going to move this thing around. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use this effects map to block out portions of it so that it kind of appears to flicker in and out. And actually, these levels here, why is this down? Hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it. Well, this is a 250. Why is this a 2048? What am I? There's something up with my parenting here. Now it's fine. That was weird. Okay. Um, where were we? Let's bring the whole thing up to 1024. Okay. And I want to put a levels node in here because I want to see less of these guys. So I'm just going to adjust my mask a little bit to have more black, less white. So we should have less of these things in there. And then I'm looking at this, and I really like this, and it matches what's going on here. And then I'm looking at this, and this is looking like really rough. So before we go any further, I want to fix this map, which I just noticed is not happy. Let's bring this down. That's not it. So I do want whites. But I don't want, yeah, that's the ticket. That's too much. I wasn't liking, there was like a whole bunch of pixelation that was happening there. It was like too thick and too much. And I'm going to fix that right there. So that's a much better look there. And then, so we're looking in here, the pixel processor is dealing with that there. I want to apply this on top of, I want to replace that. So let's, how are we going to do this? And I think what we're going to do is, this should work. Oops, not that. See what happens if we put a light and blend in here. Yeah, that's looking like I want it to, I think. And we're going to use that in here. There. So now we've got these different sized cracks that are going to be doing slightly different things as we go through this map. Let's take a look and see how this animates before we go any further. What is going on? Oh, I hit, you know, it's just being weird. I think I hit open by mistake first and it decided it was going to open a file. It's being very slow because we haven't, it is not performant right now. Yeah, that's better, much better. We're getting sort of more variety in through here. The animation sucks because it's laggy. But as far as the imagery is concerned, we're getting there. I think we're enough there that we can get rid of all of this stuff happening back here and go ahead and make our 2 bitmaps, because it's starting to irritate me that it's being like really laggy and slow, and I can't really now we're starting to look at our animation, so it makes a difference. Right. Before we proceed, it's important because of the way that parenting works in Substance. You're able to scale things up without any loss, or scale things down without any loss, however you choose to look at it. The information is here within Substance for all these procedural noises and materials and whatnot. It can be displayed at 256 and being processed as 256. Doesn't mean that all the higher res information isn't there. It is. It's just choosing not to look at it right now. If you want to play this little game with switching out bitmaps, you have to be aware of the fact that you need to make your bitmaps at the highest resolution that you plan on having your material work at, because you've got it. Substance, like, okay, Substance is going to look at the information that it needs. So let's turn the, it's probably easier to explain once we've made them. Get the node, make sure first of all that you can do it one of two ways. You can bring this up to your highest res by doing parenting. That's legit. Or if you don't feel like, but that's going to scale everything up. Or if you have it at whatever your parent resolution is, just make sure that the node that you're planning on turning into a bitmap is, before you turn it into a bitmap, at the highest resolution you're planning on using. And in this case, it's 2K. So I've turned this into a 2K bitmap. And that's fine because all of that information, even though these guys are at 256K right now, all that information is already, it's inherent here. So when I tell Substance, bump it up at this node, it's not bumping it up in these, but all that information is still there and it's getting bumped up here. So we can go ahead and use this. In fact, I'm going to just double check. I want to see what happens if, because this looks kind of low res to me. What happens if I bump up my original? Come on. You know what? I lied. This is giving me a much better map. So forget what I said in the last 20 minutes. This is now at some ridiculous number. But it is making a better 2K map. So let's do that instead. I always imagined that it would import, but it doesn't. So there we go. I just learned something new. This is a beautiful, beautiful grayscale map. And we are now going to make a new bitmap from it. So let's call it lava to cracks. And then because we learned our lesson from here, it's this one that we want. I'm going to go all the way back here. And I'm going to bring these two up to 2K. So these are now crazy big. And I'm going to make, the blend node is going to, because it's automatically taking it from here. So I'm just going to go ahead. This is already 2K. So this node here needs to be bumped up, and then this will become 2K. So again, now we have another very dense map. And I'm going to do the same here that I did to the other one. And I'm going to call this lava to crust island. We can go back to our Explorer, we right click, and we can either import or link. I'm going to import them, those two bitmaps. So we have lava 2 cracks and lava 2 crust island. And that's okay. Because we're not planning on editing it. So we have our crusts, lava 1 cracks. Oh, I made another, I forgot I had made another one earlier. So it's actually giving me 2, it's the second one that we made. So we're just going to go ahead and use that. And now we have, is that the right one? Oh, there we go. Yes, that is the right. No, that is not the right one. It's not. That's not this one. It's the one. That's the one that I had made from my. All right. Let's just. I can't be bothered. Let's just make another one. So we're going to do the same thing again, and we're going to call it something completely different. We're going to call it new crust. So there's no way that we can mistake it for something else. Let me get rid of this one. And we're going to go ahead and import a new bitmap and new crust. Yeah, my substance has been weird. Last couple times I've used it, but I so far I'm liking this 2017 version. I found some things that I really like with it. Now that is the exact same image, and we're going to go ahead and turn both of these. I turned that one into grayscale already, and all we need to do now is just switch them out. And now you'll notice that this is still staying at the parent size. We haven't, because of the way these are set up, we haven't brought in this higher res info. It's only just using the smaller res version in here. But as we scale up our material, if we get this parent size here to be 2048, it now has the information that it needs from these two nodes. Boy, I'm just going to get rid of some of this stuff. Yeah, there you go. But this is done now. We don't need this anymore. So I'm just going to go ahead and republish this out exactly as it is without having touched it, and we can actually see that it will perform better in its animation with these two now at 0, because we just got rid of a whole lot of processing that we weren't really using for anything other than to create these two bitmaps. And if we refresh it, so it's like all laggy and nasty now. and without changing anything at all other than the fact that we removed those two maps, we can already see, I hope, that we're getting better. We're getting better animations now. So let's continue with correcting. Let's fix this color first, I think, before we go and make any new maps. It's basically okay. I want to see more red in here and less yellow up here. So click that. I think I'm going to start by just moving this up. That's pretty good. I want some difference between this yellow and this orange. Actually, I'm pretty happy with that right now as it is. What I'm not happy with is in here. I'd like to see more of the magma variations in here, and the reason that's not happening is in this levels node here. We've gone very, very dark. I want to kind of open that up a little bit more. And as I'm bringing this down, this is a mask. So this is dealing with how much of this magma is shining through that crust. So as I make those spots lighter, it's going to show more of it. Now, I don't want it to really compete with the stuff I have on top, but if I give it a little bit more gray as opposed to having it completely black and white, I ought to be able to see more magma through there. And I'm going to go now back up to my color map because I think I don't have enough variety in my yellows. And I'm going to start to put a little bit more stuff in here. Let's change that color. Yeah, I hate that. Okay, let's start from scratch. Let's get a lighter color. And then I'm going to bring a color from up here down here. I want to kind of make a bit of variation. Oh, that's kind of cool. All right, now I've run into another trouble. Okay, I'm going to back out of this. That's because I haven't really figured out what my zones are. Let's find where that edge of that for lack of a better word, film on top. Oops, went too far. So I've got this basically I've created a line here, and I'm going to move this up. So this area here corresponds to what's going on in here. So that means I want to create more variety in this area up here beyond this yellow. And I want to keep the colors pretty light. But I'm starting to get a bit more variety in there now. I might not even bring that any lighter. Because I don't want a lot to happen there. I think I'll bring this down now too. But I do want to see some difference. Maybe I'll change this color. Make it more red, perhaps. Honestly, you could spend hours doing this. This is probably one of the more persnickety things you can do with Substance, So I'm actually going to leave it here. You guys don't need to watch me do an hour's worth of gradient tweaking. We worked out the basics. You figure out your zones. And, we started doing that here with these maps where we already know that this is going to be one very basic area. And then we have another basic area in here. And they'll have another basic area in here. And if you want to make it easier for yourself, you can always add in extra levels nodes to really separate out those grayscale values to set up some real zones for yourself. But I think I'm contented enough for the purpose of this video anyway with the colors here. So let's move on. The next thing we're going to deal with is the height information. Oh, and I didn't change this yet. I like my nodes in this order. Oops. You don't have to do this. I just find it more logical to deal with my height information in the same area as opposed to having nodes that are separated. Right, so this looks like a good place to start. We've built, let's get this up here. This is pretty much got various heights in here. There's a problem though, because while it's got the basics, in fact, let's go to this one. While this one's got the basics of what we want, I mean, you can. This is, again, this becomes an aesthetic issue. I want this to look like it's film on top of this magma. So I don't want this area here to have its own height information, and that corresponds to this light gray area. We want it to have a different color, which is why we separated it out. But as far as height goes, I want a much, much simpler map. And the other thing I kind of want to avoid in my height map, and this goes back to the whole simplification thing, is these cracks in here. If you get too crazy with that, that's also going to kind of mess with your height map. So let's get another levels node, and just like we did over here, we're just going to simplify it for the specific thing that we need for heights. So we're getting rid of all the grays. And as many cracks as we can. We're not going to get rid of all of them, and that's probably okay. That's too far. But we can get rid of most of them. And that's going to give us a better mask for our height. And we're also going to use it for our normals because we want the normal information from here, but I don't think we want normal information in here. Again, it's a film thing. If we were going to get complicated with it, if I was going to do anything to differentiate this from this, I would do it with the roughness. But we're not really dealing with that in this map. If you want to actually create like a different look, I wouldn't do that with height. I would stick to just like the shininess of it. Otherwise, it's going to stop looking like a film and it's going to start looking more like this solid stuff, which is, if that's what you want, then by all means do it. But that's not what I want here. So what we are going to want is height information for this magma, because eventually, just like we did with the speeds, I want to be able to control how wavy this magma area is, and that we're going to get from here. So we can go ahead and put another levels node here where we can adjust for our height map. And honestly, that looks pretty good as it is. It's maybe a little bit more gray, not much. And this will give us some nice bumpy bits. And again, they're pre-animated, so it's going to work. It's actually going to correspond exactly to what's going on with the color. It's just going to give us height information instead. So here we have our various areas, and here's our height information. And now all we need to do is combine the two. And this is pretty straightforward because I want this. Oh, you know what we didn't do? Ha ha ha. This is actually exactly backwards. We're going to want to, this is right, this is not. We're going to want to invert this grayscale because we want our crusty areas. The black here is corresponding to the crusty areas. We want those high up, and we want the magma low down. And if we do it like this, I mean, this is a mask. We could use it either way, but this way, I can set it up so that I'm using the same node for both. And then my background becomes this levels node, which then I can also use this levels node to, come on, we're going to be able, this is the node we're going to expose to bring the entirety, you know, so like we can change the wave height just by changing the overall darkness of this levels node, because we've set up the differential, and then we can expose this. In fact, why don't we do this now? Let's go and create a new parameter. Oh, I already did one. Let's do it again. Yeah, I was testing it out before. And we can type in wave height here. And lava 2. And back to our levels node. We come up in here into our values and go ahead and put our wave height in here. And it was already set at 1, which is what we've got it here. Bingo, height, done. And we're going to use, so is this even showing height? Why no, it's not. One of the things that I'm not digging about the 2017 version is they've gotten rid of the tessellation factor. So they just have like one height scale, which I guess is okay, but sometimes I like to like really ramp up the heights and go crazy with it so I can, you know, like exaggerate it and see certain things that way. That's good enough for now. Again, if you bring it in engine, you can always adjust it more depending on your shader. But we're getting height information, and it's also, once we start animating, it's going to give us those little waves in this magma area. Let's make a normal map, which is essentially based off of this, because we're not really going to be doing the you know, these little bits. So let's see what that looks like just as it is. It's probably fine. I'm not too worried about it. Let's maybe make this more than 1. But you know, there's a lot of emissives here, so normals don't really make that much of a difference on this one. But I think that's looking okay. Again, we're not going to use a metallic, so I'm just going to go ahead and put that there. All right, let's see what this looks like, because I think we're almost there. And we refresh in here. Eventually. And here we go. Am I getting my height information here? Oh, it doesn't look much like height information. Again, I'm going to double check in here. Let's bring up our scale. And yeah, this is I'm in the process of getting a new computer. This my sound card has now started crapping out on me too, so I got a bad video card, I got a bad sound card, and it's time to start thinking about buying a new computer. But that looks pretty good. We can take a look at our wave height. So as we move this up and down, the height of our waves is going to change. We can scale it up a little bit, see how it looks. A little bit more resolution. It's, you know, it's starting to look like something. I think I want to see a bit more variety in here as far as magma goes, but other than that, I think I'm pretty happy with it. So let's just go and change that a bit more. Again, I'm going to come in here. I'm going to bring that all the way down. What's happening in here? So I've lost that. You know, I'm gonna get a new levels note in here. Oh, we lost. I think we lost our mid, and I can't. That's kind of what I need right now. And I sometimes I do that. I'll put it underneath like one of them, and then I can't pull it back out again. So let's start from scratch. So let's hook it up so we can see the results as well. Right. So that's with no, you know, that might actually be pretty good because I'm seeing, which means, well, let's run it. I'm getting, you said before I thought it was, this was the place where I was having a problem, but I think it might have been in the gradient map. And now that we've changed the colors, this actually works pretty well. I'm seeing the variation I want to see in here. And there's absolutely no need to do that twice. So I'm going to go ahead and hook that up to the original. And let's export that out. We may have solved our problem. And you know, one of the things I notice gets stupid laggy if I keep that running, so I'm going to turn that off. And then let's turn it back on again. Yeah, that's better. See, I'm getting some stuff happening in here now. I mean, if I was going to go ahead and use this for something, I would probably spend another hour or so on my gradient map. But I think other than actually tweaking colors, I'm pretty satisfied with this. Yeah, I'd like to see more variation in that. But that's all. I mean, that's just doing more of what we were already doing. So I think at this point, I'm gonna. Yeah, I have to fix these colors. I can't live with it like this. So I was gonna leave it, but I think we're gonna fool around with the gradient map a little bit more. Spend a little time getting that right. So let's get into our gradient map and see what we can do about this. Because I was looking at the original and I had a lot more orange, and also wondering whether it'll look better if I do that. No, it makes no difference at all. let's, for starters, I want this a pure black, that is, and I'm going to create a second pure black in here because this isn't very black. So let's take care of that first. And then I'm going to move these guys up a little bit. So I want a deeper black. I think I also want this less shiny. That's better. And where are we? So the trouble I'm having is in here in the oranges. So let's see whether we can't get that to work a little bit better. Yeah, I wanted to pull up my original colors and try to get this to be a little closer to that. I had a more red in here. And I think the whole thing, let's get rid of this one. I think the whole thing was moved up a bit more. Down here. I'm still seeing a lot of yellow in here, which I don't really want. So what happens if we, no, it's not this one, it's the next one down. I'm gonna, no, it is this one. Yeah, the trick with this is finding those spots, because you're not really yeah, that's that right there. So that's actually probably not a bad color to have there. And so this then is the beginning of that yellow. And let's take a look at the grayscale map. That's why that's doing that, because we've got some very white lines in there, which I suppose is okay. I really don't want to go through the bother of fixing it. I think if we're hitting those edges, we're getting, let's try to just get some more orange in the edges, because it's not ever going to be exactly the same. But if we maybe bring this up a little bit, we'll pull a little bit more orange into those edges. Yeah, like that. And let's bring a little bit more of it into here as well. That's good. So I think in here, what if we go lighter? I don't like that color very much. I'm going to undo that. Let's try it again. I'm kind of just bring that one up. So I'm getting that little sort of yellow thing happening there, and then maybe let's make this one redder. Ooh, maybe not that. No, that's better. I like that much better. Now I'm okay with the colors. They're not exactly like I had them in the other one, but there's more variety going on. So I'm more pleased with this. And now I will call it done. So we've learned how to speed these up by turning these bitmaps, well, by turning those procedural materials into bitmaps. but it's very important to remember to get them as high res as you possibly can before you actually copy them out. And there we have it.